Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are in a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. Bruce, what's going on, man? How are you?
Happy holiday.
Man, I'm so excited that we're here. This is a very special Geico Super Show bonus episode right here during Christmas. I'm in the spirit, baby.
Yeah. No, you're naked.
Oh yeah. I guess we should mention that. There's no video of today's show, but I'm sans clothing.
Thank God.
It's the ultimate rib. Megan had some folks come over and help us get ready for Christmas Eve today. And I've got, outside of that door, a house full of people helping do stuff. So I'm sort of trapped in here now. Sans shirt.
You're naked.
Well, no, I got britches on.
I can't see the britches.
Do you want to see the britches?
Not really. I'm having a hard enough time with my eyes seeing what I'm seeing.
Here's my best John Tenta impression. You ready?
God damn, nobody needs to see that this time of the morning.
No, they do not. Bruce, we're going to get in trouble with this one. Well, you will. It's hashtag Ask Bruce Anything. And when we posted this, gosh, I don't know, like 10 days ago, we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of responses. There's no way we'll get to them all, but I do think we should have some fun with this. Are you in the mood to have some fun today?
Let's do 4.
Lenny Bakken, your man, your money man, who we put over all the time here on the show, wants to know, why was Dick Slater's WWF run in '87 so short?
How in the fuck am I supposed to know that, Lenny? And Lenny, of all people, should know that I don't know that because Dickie was gone by the time I got there.
Well, but you heard about it. You talked about it. I'm sure it came up. Well, Dick Slater didn't spend very long there. He was everywhere else, though. Why not in the WWF?
Well, I just don't think that Dick was a straightforward kind of guy. And he was, he just, I don't know how to explain it. Dickie was a great worker, but Dick was a top guy, but he was never a top guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know that Dickie ever came in and set a territory on fire.
Right.
Dickie was great to have on the card, and he would deliver. He was believable, all that. And Dick even booked for a little bit, but I don't know that his booking tenures anywhere were anything to really write home about. Terrific talent, terrific guy, little weird, could be a little, off. And people attribute that to the horrible car accident they had from San Antonio going to Houston that night. Then Dick was never the same after that. But I think that Dickie got into it, and Dickie was so used to being Dick Slater that he didn't know how to be the rebel. And The rebel really was just Dick Slater. So it never really connected with fans, and Dick never really connected with WWE at the time.
Let's do another one here. Also from our man, Lenny Bakken. He brought the noise with some good ones. What are Bruce's memories of Livewire? It was a great concept ahead of its time, but the original format didn't seem to last very long. And Bruce, I'm with Lenny. This was appointment TV for me. I love the idea that it was live and it was interactive and you got to see stuff you might not normally see. Paul Heyman calling in once as Bruce from Connecticut, Jim Ross just going off on motherfuckers, Vince Russo getting TV time for the first time.
Duh.
And who could forget, Sonny looking better than ever. What can you tell us about Livewire?
Livewire was way ahead of its time. Livewire was live on Saturday mornings where we had an open line. It was talk radio on TV. Was the concept behind it, was to be able to allow our audience to call in, ask questions, make comments, and the audience was going to drive that show. In the beginning, I don't know that everybody knew exactly how to handle some of the calls that we would get. And some people wanted to be that smart guy that lets you know that they knew. And it was different, and it was ahead of its time. If you were to ask me, I think that, it was something that had it come a little bit later as the internet era had really taken hold, maybe it might have been a completely different show. But I liked it because of its just uncertainty, and you never knew what the hell you were going to get. And putting JR on there was one of those situations where you put Jim on there to actually field some of those and hopefully massage some of the assholeian comments. And instead, you got JR. Yeah, well, hey, let me tell you something, buddy. You got any more of your little smart ass remarks? You want to play ha with old JR? You think, okay, hey, great. Thanks for calling, Benjamin. You let your two buddies know that, hey, Benjamin's cool. He says something smart ass to JR. Why don't you go back? And it was just, it got to be that. And then, of course, Vince Russo, who preached that, nothing's real and we got to be real and we've got to be honest with our fans and in their face, comes on as a total gimmick. And I'm Vic Venom, bro. And I thought that the Vic Venom character, it's like, okay, you're saying you want to be real. Everybody knows that Zippy and Skippy are Tom and Chris, but you're going on is I'm Vic Venom. The fucking shits. So
Wow.
I think that we missed on that a little bit.
Didn't expect
High
that.
and to the right as I'm going off to the left. See that? See what I did there?
I like it.
It says high and to the right.
And you went
I'm
left.
not sure what that means, but
John Alba wants to know, what does Bruce believe Pat McAfee's ceiling is as a talent? Could we ever see him working consistently enough to be a top guy?
I don't know that much about Pat. I actually listen to Pat. If you're interested in another great podcast, I think McAfee is tremendous. But who knows? And that's up to Pat. That's a question that people would have to ask Pat as far as what he really wants to do. But highly entertaining, tell you that.
Jeff writes, was there ever any worry from Vince McMahon that the Undertaker might be wooed away by WCW, or was he confident that Taker was a WWE lifer?
I was confident that Taker was a WWE lifer, and I believe that Vince was confident that Taker was a WWE lifer. It just was timing, and I don't know that WCW would know what the hell to do with him. Yeah, even you take him out of the gimmick and you go back to Mean Mark, and I truly believe that the Undertaker was such a strong character that you wanted to keep that aura, you wanted to keep the mystery, and you wanted to make sure that that's what the audience wanted. And I think that's what everybody wants.
Lots of different questions here from Jeff. He's really bringing the noise with some good questions. This is one that I know you're going to get fired up about, but I do want to ask, what are Vince's thoughts on Dave Meltzer? Does he just consider it white noise that he ignores at this point?
Oh, Vince, I think, completely ignores Meltzer. Meltzer's kind of like a pimple on a gnat's ass.
What's your
Just
favorite?
aggravating.
What's your favorite Eddie Guerrero match in WWE?
Well, they're my favorites for different reasons, and I go back and I look at some of the stuff that Eddie Guerrero did with JBL was so much fun and told such great stories that you could pretty much pick any match out of that. But from there, I think that when you look at the Rey Mysterio, I'm your poppy, that shit was just great. And again, you can pick any match with Rey Mysterio and Eddie and say, holy shit. But those two stories with Eddie were two of my favorites.
Does talent have to run it by Vince if they want to get tattooed? I'm mainly wondering what the protocol was for someone like the Undertaker. Does it just differ from talent to talent?
It differs from time to time. And here's the issue with, it's not so much permission or whatever, but when you have licenses out there for certain things and it's for a certain look,
Like action figures, video games, all that.
Right. And you've got a, 6-month lead on some of that stuff. And then it comes out and you look completely different, then that particular item may or may not sell because they're looking for the character they see on TV every week. And if that character changes, then, maybe I want this one now. You still have to sell out and sell through the original item that was made. So that's the reason, there's a lot more to it than, I just don't want them to get a tattoo, or, I don't want you to change your hair color or your haircut. A lot goes into it. It's a business decision.
Let's do another one here about Mount Rushmore. Efren wants to know, who are your other Mount Rushmore of ring announcers? He thinks it's a given that Howard Finkel's there. I would agree. So Fink is one. We got 3 other empty spots. Who makes the cut?
Of ring announcers. Holy shit.
I've got a soft spot for Gary Michael Capetta.
Okay. Good for you.
I like Jimmy. If we open it up to other sports, I like Jimmy Lennon.
Oh, if you open it up to other sports, then Buffer's in there. Jimmy Lennon is in there. Jimmy Lennon Jr. is also in there.
But if we stick to wrestling,
so there's 4 there.
Give me some other wrestling. Give me some other wrestling ones. Anybody ever?
Other than me?
You think you belong? It's Howard Finkel and Bruce Prichard.
Yeah.
3 times because you got 3 black belt Hall of Fames, right?
Yeah. Yes. As a matter of fact, I do, Conrad.
Seriously, do you have any other wrestling announcer you've ever liked?
Oh, wait a minute. Now you're going with that I ever liked.
Okay. All right.
Oh boy. You know what? Okay. Let me give you my philosophy on, and I love Howard Finkel to death. And I think that he was probably the greatest ring announcer of all time. The ring announcer is there to get talent over as well. And they are there to announce what's coming up. They're not there to be a gimmick and to get themselves over. And I feel that a lot of times the ring announcers try to get themselves over. And to me, a great ring announcer is someone who gets themselves over by getting other talent over. That's why I think Howard Finkel was so good. Howard became a gimmick, but that's why Howard was so good. He didn't worry about, how he introduced certain people. He did everybody the same and was excellent.
Drew Landry wants to know, on the Flair 30 for 30, Flair said his potential WrestleMania match with Hogan wasn't going to happen because the two weren't clicking on the house shows. Is that correct? Or did their egos get in the way?
Well, I wasn't there, so I can't answer that from that standpoint. However, I do know that also the house shows weren't drawing with Hogan and Flair on top. And from all reports, Hulk and Rick did not click in the ring, and it was something that people just weren't that interested in. It kind of goes to it stamps that a lot of times when someone would come in from WCW and you think, okay, hey, well, this guy's really over in WCW, to the WWE audience, they weren't over. They didn't mean as much as they meant where they came from. And they had to get over here. Rick came in right on top, and Rick came in kind of positioned as the equal, and the audience wasn't buying it.
This is going to be a tough one for you, and I feel like we're going to get in trouble no matter what we say. Jason Rossi wants to know, one of the following has to go and never existed. The other three remain. Pick one. Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, The Rock, Stone Cold.
Oh, wow.
One's gone forever. The other three exist. I already know what you're going to say. You're thinking about it, but I know where you wind up.
Bret.
Yeah, of course. I knew you'd say that. You can't do it without Rock and Stone Cold. And Shawn Michaels had that second act. Makes it tough to imagine it without him.
But Bret was a catalyst in many ways to pretty much accept. And I always hate calling Bret small. Bret wasn't small, but in comparison to the monsters of the day, Bret wasn't the biggest guy in the world. Wasn't what the audience was used to. So, Bret was instrumental in that way. But if one's got to go, Bret's got to go.
Here's a little easier one. Popeyes or Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich?
Well, I'm a Chick-fil-A guy, no pickle. You know why?
Why?
Because you can't get a Chick-fil-A spicy chicken sandwich without, what makes it spicy is the sauce they put on it. They won't do spicy chicken on their chicken sandwich.
They don't do that at Popeyes either. That's what you're saying. You said Chick-fil-A, but you mean Popeyes. I
meant Popeyes. Yeah. Popeyes won't do theirs without that spicy mayo stuff on it.
Yeah.
And they should just do a spicy chicken breast, and then they would probably be better than Chick-fil-A. And then the battle comes down to, is it Chick-fil-A or is it Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich? Because Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich should not be sneezed at.
I agree. It's on the list. Josh P. Kuhn wants to know, any memories of the Sugar Ray, Donnie Lalonde? I screwed that name up. Boxing.
Donnie Lalonde.
Yeah, there you go. Vince McMahon promoted this in '88, and it was all over SummerSlam that year with an interview with Sugar Ray where he called Mean Gene Jim, and he called it Super Slam. What do you remember of Vince's foray into boxing promoting here in '88?
Well, it was a short-lived deal. It was an opportunity to help Sugar Ray Leonard out, and Sugar Ray had this fight with Donnie Lalonde that was going to take place, and we promoted it, and we were going to help distribute it on pay-per-view. So it was a business arrangement, but I don't know how serious that Vince was looking at getting into boxing. I don't think that he really had any desire to get into that at the time. And it was just a good business decision that was presented that we did. I got to go to Sugar Ray's training camp and do primetime wrestling with with Gino, Gorilla Monsoon, and Bobby Heenan. Had a blast there. And I guess I should post those pictures that I promised of the Big Show and Andre. And then I'll post pictures of me with Sugar Ray Leonard at the training camp when we did the primetime there. But that was a lot of fun up at Caesar's Poconos.
You love the Poconos, don't you?
Poconos were fun.
Yeah. Hey, real quick.
Poconos.
What's that?
You like the Poconos?
I went the one time. I saw it. I'm done. I scratched it off the list. Jason wants to know, which creative direction did you really have to sell to a talent who was questioning the idea, but it wound up being one of the best things they ever did?
Oh God. There's probably a lot of those. Here's my favorite argument, and Jerry Lawler gave this to me, so I must credit Jerry with it, because it would always astonish me. You would lay something out, an entire story. Hey, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. We're going to pay it off here. We're going to do this there. And when the talent would look at you and say, do you really think that's going to work? Now think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Do I really think that's going to work? You know what? No. I'm going to waste all of this television time, which is very valuable, to do this. And I want to waste it for several weeks because I don't think it's going to work. I think it's going to suck. And we we're going to go to this pay-per-view and we're going to put it on top because we really think it sucks. Sometimes you got to think just a little bit, before you ask a question like that. So there are a few, going back and Steve Austin and Kurt Angle, I think in the beginning was a little bit like, God, is Kurt ready for this?
Right.
And even the stuff with Kurt backstage with Steve when neither could work, it's like, is this going to work? And it was some of the best shit we ever did. I think that there's a long list of them, probably two. Eddie Guerrero being Dominic's father. I don't know how many people really thought that would work, and I thought it worked great.
Rajiv wants to know, what are the Prichard family traditions during the Christmas holiday?
Well, let's see. We open presents. Okay, so really don't have any. When I was in Texas, we always had the big Christmas Eve party. And the Christmas Eve party was for members of the family, unofficial members of the family and friends to come over and just have a few drinks and eat a bunch of food and just get together on Christmas Eve. And that kind of went away, obviously, when I moved back to Connecticut. But that was always a shitload of fun. And I'd have the homeless people that didn't have a lot of family. They would always come over and just kind of hang out and do that. And that was one of the best ones that we had. And then Christmas morning is you just get up and you open your presents. I don't do that shit Christmas Eve. You open your presents on Christmas morning. You have Eggs Benedict. And then you just chill the fuck out for the rest of the time. And I was early when my kids were younger. Now, this was a lot of fun, and unfortunately it doesn't last long enough, is when my kids were younger, on that Christmas party, I had Santa Claus there every year. And so all the kids from in the neighborhood will all come over to sit on Santa's lap because Mr. Prichard had an in with Santa, and Santa would come to my house, and he would spend an hour, and he would talk to all the little children in the neighborhood and get all their requests and everything. And then he had to go and deliver presents to the rest of the little bastards and tell them, hey, go home, go to bed, or else I'm not coming to your house. So yeah, I like the Santa shit. And I kind of stole that one from Vince, but I did it on Christmas Eve.
Of all the roles you've had in wrestling, what has been your favorite and why?
Here's my favorite. My favorite is creating behind the scenes, and why? Because it's one thing. I love performing. I absolutely love performing. However, when you get to work behind the scenes, you get to be everybody. And you're not just portraying one character. You get to create, you get to help bring to life several characters. So for me, that's the biggest kick, and that's what I love. And I look forward to live television. I absolutely love live TV.
This is a fun one that we haven't really talked about before. And I want you to really think about it before you answer. What's been the most rewarding thing about working in the wrestling business? Take a beat. Don't just be funny, witty, but like real.
Probably, this is going to sound hokey, but through the wrestling business, I actually met my wife, and then able to have my kids and have my family and be able to do a lot of things that you never in a million years would imagine that you'd be able to do. It's funny when you're a kid how you dream and what you dream about. As a child, I wanted to be a wrestler and I wanted to be the world champion and I wanted to wrestle in Madison Square Garden in the main event. And then I wanted to be a promoter in Houston and retire. Um, by the time I was 28, I'd already main evented Madison Square Garden and I had promoted Houston. Um, got fired, so that was kind of like retiring. Uh, but I had done those things at such a young age that I realized, wow, there's so much more to do. So when you look at the opportunity to travel and see things that you wouldn't have seen, to meet people that you wouldn't have ever been able to meet, to be able to stand in a parking lot with Rick Rubin, who is a musical genius, and have Rick is excited to talk to you as you are talking to him. And there's absolutely no way that Rick could have been as excited to talk to me as I was to talk to Rick. But just, here's this genius in the music industry that has done so much that's just like, yeah, man, and talking to me and asking me questions. And those moments are surreal, and I wouldn't have ever been able to experience any of that had it not been for this business. I wouldn't be able to own my home.
Boy, I know we don't talk about current stuff, but this is too good not to ask. Mayhem wants to know, what was an ass chewing like from Vince back in the day compared to an ass chewing from Vince like now?
Different. I think everybody grows up, and I think that everyone matures, and as you get older, you get a little bit wiser and you mellow out a little bit. And I'm not saying that Vince has really mellowed out that much. He's as intense as he ever was, but
his temper's in check.
We handle things a lot differently than we did when we were younger.
You learned, you evolved.
You evolve and learn. Yes.
Adam from Bama wants to know, how satisfied were you with the Undertaker's final farewell? Obviously with COVID being the case, that's a tough thing, in a different time, a different place. Maybe you could have done something differently, but I dug it. I thought the hologram you guys did with Paul Bear, again, I know we're not supposed to talk about current stuff, but this is a send off, so maybe it's different. You can shut me down if you need to. The hologram thing was badass. I thought it was great. I loved it.
I thought it was appropriate for, again, time, different times, different places. You would have done different things, but that character was iconic, and that character deserved that spotlight. And by God, you could have done an entire week of for that career. You could do an entire year of that career. So I was pleased.
This is a fun question, and I'm going to tag on to the end of it. DJ Iron Mike wants to know, did Pat Patterson ever consider entering a Royal Rumble? Being the creator of the Rumble match, it seems appropriate. The Stooges would have fit right into the 1999 installment. It was loaded with Gaga. Patterson and Briscoe would have been perfect. In hindsight, I wish that would have happened too, because it is kind of weird that he created it and was never in it, and it would have fit then.
Oh, we used to joke about it all the time. And in later years, I think Pat's joking became, well, why the fuck not can I go into the Rumble Royal? And I win the motherfucker. I said, fuck you. So it had been discussed, but when it came right down to it, it went from, okay, we could do this, to Pat basically say, I'm not fucking doing that. Fuck you. I'm not taking no bump over the top. If I win, maybe at a pace.
Here's one. Big Jake Black wants to know, who do you think was a better worker in '89, Mr. Perfect or Randy Savage?
They were both great. Randy, I think Randy in some ways kind of gets a bad rap, but I was talking to somebody recently about, when did it get to the point where guys had to talk about their entire match and have every single second of their match laid out in their head before they went out? And they said, oh, Randy Savage always did that. But Randy Savage didn't always do that. And I've heard the stories about WrestleMania 3 and Ricky Steamboat and Savage wanting to have everything down. And maybe he did for that match. I wasn't there. But I know in later years when I worked with Randy that we used to just go out and have fun. So Randy was a great worker. And probably in 1989, Randy was on top of the world. And not many people could touch him. Not saying I'm not discounting Mr. Perfect either, because Perfect was insane.
Was John?
I think Kurt's better years were like 90, 91.
Yeah, his 91 stuff you can't beat. Jake wants to know, was John Arezzi's radio show from Long Island ever on the WWE radar? Old school ask right there. I like it.
I can tell you that I've never heard it or ever listened to it. I've heard of it. And I'm sure that, the Fink probably listened to it and everything, but I don't know that I ever listened to a minute of it.
Let's give some context. Some of our listeners may not know who John Arezzi is or was. He's still around, by the way, and does a podcast these days. He's got a Patreon and all that, but once upon a time he had a radio show that was in New York. And I think he even expanded to a few different markets, and he talked sort of, inside wrestling, but he had big time guests all the time. And it was a pretty popular show, especially in the area. Eventually he created, I believe, the wrestling convention, and he had like the first ever wrestling convention, and he had a whole cast of stars, including Ric Flair. So it was a really cool, thing for fans in the Northeast to follow his show and support his show and do the conventions. And when we did StarCast, a lot of people said, oh, Conrad's trying to be like the new John Arezzi. And I myself didn't know a ton about John at the time, but I was fortunate enough to meet him and have lunch with him, and great guy, big baseball fan, absolutely loves professional wrestling. And, it's kind of cool to know that he was doing that stuff way back before it was cool in the late 80s.
Yeah. And like I said, I know the name, but I couldn't tell you much about the show at all. Don't think that I've ever heard it.
Joseph says, what's the one thing you miss the most about not being in the WWE bubble? Sleep.
My pool.
Sleep. Pool.
Yeah. Sleep. My pool, being tan, and time to, how I used to love to go on my hour and a half long bike rides.
Yeah.
And I miss that. I miss just being out in the sun and going on long bike rides and getting a bunch of skin cancer and shit. I don't have skin cancer, people. And even when I was in the sun all the time, I used to go get checked out all the time. So knock on wood, I didn't have it. So
you had a beautiful backyard in Houston. Your pool was a big part of your life. I mean, when the weather was passable, you got in it every day, right?
Yes. I would be in the pool every day if I possibly could, because the pool was in between my office and the house.
Yeah. So sometimes you would just be going between the two. Let's take a little dip right fast.
And I would literally walk down the set of stairs on the office side and then walk out on the house side, and just to get wet and cool off sometimes, just to get in it.
I wish you wouldn't have sold the house. I wish you would have hung on to it, 'cause that was a cool house. I never got to visit it, but all the pictures and, the idea that you had an attached office that was,
hated that house.
I know you hated it, but my gosh, it seemed like it was laid out really, really well.
Yeah. Well, my family liked it because the office was separate.
Yeah.
And so I would disappear over there and they didn't have to deal with me at all.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And you had that fridge out in the garage, and occasionally beers would go missing. Kane, God damn it.
Yeah. Shit like that.
The good old days. The good old days.
But the best part was I always had like one of those big, like queen size mattresses that would be in the pool, floaties, and I would go out there and just hang out for an hour or so, take a nap on there and get my son, and then wake up and go jump on a bike and just go ride for an hour, hour and a half. I had my little path.
When you
Take
sent
a
me
different
your,
path every day.
the Zillow link to your new beautiful home in Connecticut, I looked through the pictures 2 times looking for the pool. I was shocked that you didn't buy a house with a pool. And then I remembered you get to use it for about 11 days up there.
At best.
Chip wants to know any stories of working with MLW.
You know, going and working with MLW at the time was a lot of fun, frankly. And I wasn't sure what to expect. We were doing the podcast, and Court Bauer was doing his MLW promotion, asked me if I'd be interested in coming and helping some of the talent with promos and just backstage and kind of help out with the TV production overall. And I'm like, okay, what can this be? But I had adapted a little bit different attitude by that point, just saying, what the fuck, you know? I think my initial reaction, had you asked me 5 years before, I would have said, nah, I don't want to do that shit. And I changed my attitude to go try stuff, go see what the hell's out there. And so I went and got to meet a lot of really, good talent coming up. But play, it was an opportunity. It was a opportunity to go and play and have fun. So I thought it was fun. It was a blast just to get out and do something different in the wrestling business.
Here's an interesting one that we haven't really talked about before, but it's fantasy booking for WrestleMania 9 from Brandon Finch. He says, why didn't you just book Macho Man versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 9? And then you could have just booked Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna. Not using Macho Man for a match was nuts, in my opinion. What say you?
Well, I say that you weren't there and you weren't booking it, so you weren't dealing with Randy Savage telling you that he wanted to get out of the ring and start a broadcasting career. So knowing that and knowing their desire to be in the broadcast booth and to be able to put them on the grandest stage of all as a broadcaster and a color man, that's what we had to work with. I love it. So why didn't you do this? Why didn't you book this? Why didn't you book that? Not understanding and or realizing the restrictions of the talent at the time and what the talent's desires were and or weren't.
And or weren't. Kevin Ho Huntsberger. I always mispronounce Kevin's last name. Sorry about that, pal. If Vince McMahon,
Ho Huntsberg.
Well, he calls himself Ho for, Christmas.
Ho.
Yeah. But his last name is Huntsberger, but I always have to sound it out like I'm hooked on phonics. If Vince McMahon had bought the UWF in 87 instead of Jim Crockett, how do you think Sting and Dr. Death would have been used? And boy, you want to talk about a good question. That's a good one, because you and I have sometimes fantasy booked. What if the Ultimate Warrior and Sting swapped places? But what if Vince McMahon, who Jim Ross was trying to court to sell the UWF to before he ultimately landed a deal with Jim Crockett, what if Watts' territory went to Vince and now Dr. Death is in and Sting is in 87?
Well, it would have been interesting. And I think that you probably wouldn't have had an Ultimate Warrior had that happened, or at least not as quickly as we did. Warrior probably would have made his way through there, but I think given the opportunity, the other thing about it is I don't know that Sting would have transitioned. I don't know. That's the age-old question. Dr. Death, same thing. I think that Doc would have made a tremendous nasty heel to work with Hulk and could have had a long and illustrious career there. Sting, I think the jury's out there. I don't really know.
fascinated by that. Let's switch gears here.
You want to know what would be intriguing to me in that
What?
was the mind of Eddie Gilbert.
Hmm.
Because during that time, Eddie Gilbert had started to, dabble in the booking end of things in the UWF, and Eddie's was starting to flourish there and get some of his ideas out. And that to me is what would have been interesting as far as getting Eddie's head involved a little bit. And, then where would we be?
It's fun to fantasy book like that. That's good stuff. Table Talk Entertainment says the WWF has a long-standing history in Detroit. Any memories, good or bad, that stand out the most?
In Detroit?
In Detroit. So Detroit question.
Shit. As I've said before, Detroit was always one of those places where you had guys like George Thorogood that would show up, Thomas Hitman Hearns that would show up, the Red Wings would always show up. And it was funny, the artists that lived in the Detroit area, Kid Rock lives right outside of Detroit. And Detroit was one of those markets that always did well. But I think that the things that I remember most is Hogan Savage with Buster Douglas as the referee is one of those moments that I just will never forget. Because of the magnitude of it all, with Tyson getting knocked out for the first time, whatever the Sunday before, Saturday night before, whatever it was. And Detroit was just one of those towns that was always a great town. Detroit and Chicago, in the Midwest were insane.
Here's one from Matt. Has Bruce ever seen Matt Riddle's knockout on The Ultimate Fighter? If not, Conrad, would you please show him, because it's legit one of the most devastating knockouts in MMA history. Did you see any of Matt Riddle's fights back in the day?
I saw some of Matt Riddle's fights back in the day. Yeah. I don't know which specific one you're talking about.
I'll send you a link, but he was a highlight reel over there. And, well, there's probably an MLW story to tell one day. Will says, has there ever been a thought to put into a Legends division or separate show with Mike Tyson returning to pay-per-view with all the nostalgia around wrestling? It seems like it could be a great success. Age may stop high flying, but it doesn't stop promos or the ability to tell stories.
I have no idea what question you just asked me.
Like, would you do a Legends League? This comes around because we just saw Mike Tyson fight Roy Jones Jr. And I guess the idea is, could you do a Legends League? And I think the difference is you do have some performers on the rosters who were, in their late 40s and early 50s, and we do see them. But would a special one-off Legends only type event work, do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that there's a desire for nostalgia, and that, you always want to see your heroes from your childhood. They've got one more match, one more time. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. And for Mike Tyson, watching that was interesting, and more power to Mike. Was it the Mike Tyson of old? No, it wasn't. But to see the incredible shape that he was in, and that he could actually do what he did at that age, God damn, my hat's off to him. I couldn't do it.
Here's one here. Adam wants to know, has Vince ever had any issues with anything that's been discussed on the podcast? The gist is, have you gotten in trouble since you've been back for stuff we do on the podcast? And the answer is no, boys and girls. We don't talk about anything current. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Let's talk about, Pat Patterson. Pender J wants to know, what did someone like Pat Patterson or Gerald Briscoe think when the curtain continued to be pulled back? Essentially, what did they think about kayfabe starting to go away?
In the beginning, I think that it hurts a little bit, and you cringe whenever you see someone letting out more and more secrets. And then you kind of sit back and go, okay, maybe that's out there, but this isn't. You try and still have a mystique about the business, and you still try to protect it as best that you can. I never been one for, and you're gonna say, God damn, Bruce, you do a podcast, talk all about it. Pretty much everything we talk about has been discussed somewhere else before, and we try and just correct a lot of the inaccuracies that are out there, just outright lies that are done by some people. And it's in the beginning, things evolve. Just everything evolves. You look at television, you look at movies, and you see how they've evolved and what people are watching now on Netflix and Amazon Prime and things like that, the documentaries that people are in tune to. It's different, but I still think that the majority wants to be entertained, and the majority likes to watch the illusion without you telling them how the illusion is done. And I'm just a firm believer in that. And I think that Pat and Jerry early on, were concerned, but then they also were progressive enough and able to evolve and grow. And that's how they looked at it.
Here's one about rings. Alex wants to know, do you think we'll see rings built? Go ahead.
Sorry, got to say this. And talking about growing, and I learned yesterday that someone that I blast on here an awful lot, that his mother passed away, and sincerely, anybody listens to this that talks to Dave Meltzer, Dave, very sorry to hear about your mother, and that's genuine, and just wanted to say that because that does suck. We're all just, we're humans, and I do have feelings, and I'm not a complete asshole, and I just wanted to express my condolences to Dave there for the loss of his mother, and very sorry to hear that. That sucks.
Super sucks. Thoughts and prayers for real go out to Dave. No matter what you guys agree or disagree on, everybody loves their mama.
That's right. We all have moms, and it's tough when you lose them.
Alex wants to know, do you think there'll ever be an evolution about the way rings are being built? It seems like there has to be an alternative to wood beams, maybe carbon fiber or something else. Listen, maybe carbon fiber is a far-fetched idea, but I do think it's interesting that while seemingly everything else evolves, the ring kind of stays the same, right?
Well, the ring has evolved in a lot of ways. And I think that the beauty of wood is the fact that wood naturally gives a little, and wood, it expands and it swells, and it's a living, breathing, what the fuck you call it, element. But yeah, I think that it could definitely evolve, and you just have to have something that is going to be as forgiving and as resilient as wood is. And until they do that, I think we're going to stick with wood.
Forgiving as wood is feels like a transition to another spot. Ryan wants to know, if Vince challenged you to play him one-on-one in one of these, what would you pick? Ping pong, billiards, or darts?
Oh, ping pong.
Think you got him there?
I think I got him. I got a chance there. He's a very good pool player, and he's pretty good darts. So, I know he'd beat me at pool. Yeah. Darts, I don't know. But ping pong, I'm a pretty good ping pong player.
Have you seen him play pool, or you just know he has a badass table? Cause I have a badass table, but
I've seen him play.
Okay.
No, I've seen him play pool and darts.
Those are old bar games. Was Vince back in the day an old school hustler?
I'm sure.
Had to be.
But yeah, no, I've played him in pool, but I've seen him play pool, and I've seen him throw darts. Haven't seen him play ping pong, but I do know I have. Here's another fact. You want another fact? Because this sumbitch listens to this show too. Bill Gray, my karate instructor who inducted me into the Black Belt Hall of Fame 3 different times. And hey, Bill, I'm still waiting for the 4th, okay? 2020 is still going. You still have time. Get me my 4th induction into the Black Belt Hall of Fame. But Bill was like a champion ping pong player in his day. And one day we went back by the park where it all started, Beverly Hills Park in Houston, Texas, where I took my first karate class and all that. And it was a rec center. It's like, let's go in and play ping pong. And I smoked him. I kicked his ass so bad that I don't think he's ever picked up a paddle since. But he used to be a champion. And I mean, when I say I smoked him. I skunked his ass. And we kept playing. One more game. And I kept beating him. So ping pong was my game. I'll whip your ass. Except for those. And then you want to know a real humbling deal is we went to a tennis, pro tennis gimmick.
Yeah.
Mattress Max place. And if you've ever seen pro tennis players play ping pong, holy uckfay. I mean, they back up like 10 feet from the table and are swatting that goddamn ball, man. It's like, holy shit, dude. Like, you can't even see it. And they take it very seriously. So I'm not that good. But to your average ping pong player, yeah, I could probably take them.
Tony Schiavone's porn stash wants to know, did Bruce ever thinking about teaming up Hercules and his dad Zeus and form the mega mythology powers?
Zeus.
That's great. Zeus and Hercules, the mega mythology powers. Good question.
Why the fuck not?
That's great. Mick
How
wants.
do you know I won't?
Well, it's a little challenging now. Those guys have, well, maybe you could book it in heaven.
Yeah, you know what, man? No, they're mythologically mythical.
I can't wait until you guys have, the Paul Bearer hologram folks put together a Hercules and Zeus hologram. Mick wants to know, do you have any good Pistol Pez Watley stories?
No. Pez, why I don't.
No, I
met Pez a couple of times, and I know that that Pez was a shooting motherfucker, man. Pez was a tough kid. He was a badass, like for real, and a hell of an amateur wrestler and very, very tough. And I don't know too many people that ever want to fuck with Pez Watley. He was all very, very nice man. The very few times I was around him and met him.
This is going to tickle you. Andy Goldsmith says, Sean and Marty, Sting and Warrior, Jericho and Storm. Is it safe to say when it's time to break up a tag team, go with the blonde guy?
Well, yeah. That just makes common sense.
Mr. William.
Give me the blonde one.
It's like, hit that motherfucker with a car, right?
Yeah, it works. Okay. You take every one of those motherfuckers. Who had the longevity?
The blondes.
Yeah. What color is my hair?
Gray.
Okay. Well, fuck you.
You set
no shirt, no pant wearing motherfucker.
You set yourself up for that.
I gotta look at you. I gotta look at you naked. You're naked.
I can turn my camera off. Here you go.
No, I don't want. No, give it back.
I'm back.
There you go. There he is. That's the earthquake right there, my God.
By the way,
he's doing an earthquake pose, folks.
The double biceps.
Makes it even more disturbing.
Yes, it does. Fernando Diaz wants to know, what does Bruce think of Arn's concept of eating a hamburger with no cheese? Bruce, I know you don't listen to Arn's podcast, but he's drawing a line in the sand saying there is no such thing as a cheeseburger. That's how you ruin a hamburger. It's a hamburger, no cheese. The cheese overpowers the meat. He and I have big heat over that. Cheeseburgers are fantastic. Where are you at on Arn's take that cheese does not belong on a burger?
The fuck do you have a cheeseburger without cheese?
It's just called a hamburger.
Okay, that's fine. You know, the only burger that I don't eat with cheese is I will get a double Whopper, no pickle, no cheese. Like double Whopper, no pickle, no cheese is like,
So what's on it? It's bread,
sometimes.
2 patties. There's ketchup and
Lettuce,
mayonnaise?
tomato, onion, mayonnaise, and ketchup.
Okay. So literally everything except cheese and except why no cheese there? I'm curious.
Because when I was a kid and I would only eat a hamburger plain, just meat only, nothing else on it. My mom was like, "Oh, you got to try it. It would be delicious." And she went to Burger King and got a Whopper. And she cut it in half and she basically made me try it. And I was like, son of a bitch, this is really good, till I got to the pickles and I like spit the pickles out. So that was disgusting. So then she got me one without pickles. I was like, well, fuck, man, this is really, really good. So that's just how I eat a Whopper. Anything else, you got to have cheese. You got to have cheese.
Well,
you need a cheeseburger. I love cheeseburgers. I love cheeseburgers with American cheese. I love cheeseburgers with cheddar cheese. I love cheeseburgers with Swiss cheese. I love cheeseburgers with all kinds. With
Colby Jack, pepper
cheese.
jack, yeah.
Pepper jack. That's and put some goddamn cheese on the motherfucking burger.
Now, do you melt the cheese?
I like the Juicy Lucy's with the cheese in the middle.
That's a JR thing. He's a big Juicy Lucy.
That's a goddamn Lenny Backin thing. Backin.
Well, he's the cheese master. He sent me a bunch of cheese for Christmas, by the way.
Yeah, me too. I love it.
I've been wearing it out. I don't know. I got on a cheese kick this holiday season, and now I'm not wearing shirts, so I'm trying to.
I know.
Fernando wants to know.
I just got the notice.
Can the three-time karate black belt Hall of Famer give his opinion on the Netflix series Cobra Kai?
God damn, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. See, here's the thing. Okay, Cobra Kai is because the reverse roles where the babyface turn.
It's a double turn.
Yeah. Yes. It was a great double turn in Cobra Kai. And everybody can relate to it. Fuck Daniel LaRusso and his goddamn fucking Mercedes dealership and all that shit. So yeah, I love it. But my prediction is for season 3 they're gonna do the turn back and get everybody back in their rightful places and all that fucking Here's another thing, because I got inside info here. And it's like Ralph Macchio. God, lighten the fuck up. He takes himself way too seriously. Just saying, in general, because see, Daniel, goddamn it, man, it ain't all about. You need to look at the positives of the Cobra Kai.
Oh, you're getting into it here.
Yes, I am. Okay, because Cobra Kai, man, sometimes you shouldn't have mercy. Just saying. Lighten up, Ralph. Sometimes you just got to show no mercy. When you're looking at that damn Porsche dealership opening up down the road, nah, man, squish him like a bug, and you will. So that's the thing. He'll do that in the car business. Except he's been letting his car business go. We're going to see how that fucking turns out in season 3. So yeah, I'm kind of a big fan of Cobra Kai. I love it.
Let's talk about something that Vince loves. Chris wants to know, what impression does Bruce do that Vince likes the most, and which is his least favorite? Do you have an impression that pisses Vince off, and does he have a favorite?
He pretends to get frustrated when I do him, but he really loves it. Well, all my shit's great.
Does he like Dusty? I feel like Dusty's probably his favorite.
Everybody likes Dusty a little bit. And then get into JR a little bit. Sassafras. And that's real nice. Real nice. Playing a little ha-ha on old JR.
Does he still hear your Jerry Jarrett? Does he still get a kick out of that?
Oh yeah. Oh well, fuck. Huh? Oh yeah. Actually, Jerry Jarrett's a good one. Pat. But I do. I mean, people think I just do it on this show, and oh my God, you'd never do that to their face. I've done every one of them to every one of their faces.
I gotta ask, what's he think of your Jim Cornette?
Goddamn. Shit. He does everybody does Jim Cornette.
Vince has a Jim Cornette impression?
Yeah, it sounds a lot like mine though.
Okay.
Motherfucker. Double cheese. You took Jim Cornette's no goddamn cheese on a fucking cheeseburger. How the fuck do you have a goddamn burger without fucking cheese? Double cheese on a double cheeseburger, motherfucker.
It tickles me,
Mayo.
the idea of thinking you guys are you're sitting around a table. And,
bastard.
And somebody might question a piece of, I'm not going again.
Extra cheese, motherfucker. It's better when I can see you.
I know.
He tried to fake me out. Like, you try to look at, see, folks, what he's doing is he's trying to look at me and like look like he's going to say something, so he'll expect me to upcut it. But I don't do that because I know when he's actually going to say something, and then when he doesn't,
yeah, here it comes.
I just say, motherfucker.
This scene right here, what we're doing, is a lot like that scene in National Lampoon's Christmas. And you are the dog Snots. And I'm telling our audience right now, it's easier if we just let him finish. You know, you got a little Mississippi leg hound in you is what I'm trying to say.
I have no idea what the fuck what you just called me.
Okay. So there's a dog that humps everybody and everything in the movie National Lampoon's Christmas with Chevy Chase. Maybe you've heard of it. Oh, Cousin Eddie, Shitter's Full.
This Christmas one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really, I've seen it.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that's not the best Christmas movie of all time? Are we fixing to get hot right now? Are you going to sit here and disparage the good damn name of National Lampoon's Christmas with Chevy Chase?
Julia Louis-Dreyfus is in that. She was hot.
Okay. You remember now. Yes, she was in it. Yeah. She was the neighbor.
Yeah. I don't remember all the other shit though.
All right. Well, there's a scene where the dog is humping people's legs. Cousin Eddie's dog is humping everybody. And Cousin Eddie says, it's easier if you just let him finish. The idea being he's going to keep humping you until it just comes out. So just let him squirt and then we can move on with our day.
So what's the fucking goddamn analogy back to me?
Because you get in this fucking shtick coma with all the Jim Cornette shit and I'm trying to talk and you're cutting me off. So I just like, okay, let's just let him get it out of his system and then we can move on with the show.
Okay, fine.
Mississippi leg hound.
I still don't know what that means, but okay. Chris
wants to know the Iron Sheik.
Fuck you, motherfucker.
There we go. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie, Bruce? Where do you stand on this? It's Absolutely. It is. 100%. Explain.
Takes place at Christmas.
That's all it takes to be a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with it.
For Christmas. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Andy says, hypothetically, if Bruce had went to WCW in 92 and not returned to WWE, does he think he might have had a chance at getting that president's job that Eric Bischoff would eventually see himself land?
No telling. No telling. You know, when I was going to go to WCW at that time, it was as a talent. So I don't know. I don't know if I could have, handled that landscape at the time.
Here's an interesting one we haven't talked about in a while. Chris Oldham wants to know, whatever happened to Joel Watts?
Joel, last I heard, was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I spoke to him a few years ago in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in a production house, editing and doing things. So, man, Joel's talented guy. Just one of my favorite people in the world and a very, very talented guy.
Shane wants to know, what did Creative have planned for Chyna when she abruptly left in 2001? Her last appearance at Judgment Day seemed to be hinting at another Eddie Guerrero angle.
You know, I think at the time that it was something along the lines of Chyna continuing to work and just grow her character, but we'll never really know.
Chase Hernandez says, after WrestleMania 6 and the success in Toronto, do you think the Astrodome was ever seriously considered to host before WrestleMania 17?
Yeah, it was. It definitely was, but it never really worked out because of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. A lot of times, depending upon when that would start, you would have to finish up the rodeo and be able to clear everything out of the rodeo before you could do another event in there. So that kind of really prohibited a WrestleMania in Houston for a long time until, obviously we got to 2000 or 2001. Was it 2001? It's 2000, right? 2000. I don't fucking know. It was WrestleMania 17, goddammit.
WrestleMania 17 was 01.
Okay, fine. That's what I said.
Becky wants to know, why is Miss Elizabeth not in the Hall of Fame?
I think she will be. Just a matter of time.
I don't know what there is to say here, or if it's even one that's fair play. Why does Bruce think EC3 wasn't able to transition well in WWE?
I have no idea.
Yeah, because you weren't really working with him. He was NXT. Yeah. Grand Inquisitor says, with it being Sabu's birthday, it's the perfect time to ask, what was the thought process as far as allowing Sabu to start cutting his own promos in the WWE CW show?
I think that any performer, you go back and you look at Kane, and people thought that we were crazy when we let Kane start talking. At some point, to communicate with your audience, they want to hear from you, and they want to be able to connect with you in some way. And that was a big part of, trying to get Sabu to talk and to do his own promos. And I think that Sabu kind of was comfortable where he was. And it's just trying to grow, man. And you have to grow, and you have to continue to evolve.
Reza wants to know, Kevin Nash has in the past talked about the idea of a wrestling show to be like the Larry Sanders Show. Was there ever an idea to do a show about a show with 2 layers of storytelling and backstage drama?
Yeah, plenty of times. It's just difficult to sell that. And it's hard sometimes when, at least for me, put it that way. I used to get upset at Dixie when Dixie was trying to be a heel on camera, and then she would try to be a heel on her Twitter page, and then she would tweet, "Oh, isn't this great?" Blah, 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 and be a complete babyface. So yeah, it's difficult sometimes for people to draw that line and determine what's real and what's Memorex. Do people even know what Memorex is anymore?
Yeah. Everybody my age knows.
Okay.
Umar Khan wants to know, what did Bruce think of CM Punk's infamous pipe bomb promo? I know you weren't.
It was great.
Okay. Were you watching wrestling actively every week in 2011, or did you just see everybody talking about it online and say, "Oh, I got to go watch this. Everybody's talking about it."
Yeah. Somebody told me about it, and I don't, as a matter of fact, in 2011, I'm not even sure that I was, taping it and going back. At that point I was in TNA.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that somebody told me about it, and I went back and watched it.
BC wants to know.
It was great though.
It was great. BC wants to know, what is one idea that everyone shit on that ended up being absolute gold? I think he means here, not the talent, but like nobody liked the idea. Everybody lobbied against it. And then ultimately it hit big.
Mick Foley, the 3 Faces of Foley is one thing. I don't think that everybody, bought. It was, Mankind was so strong at the time. And then, Dude Love, and then we're like, God damn, he can be Cactus Jack. He can just be Mick Foley. And it's like, he's got to be all the characters, and just being Mick Foley will never work. I think it did all right.
It did just fine.
Yeah.
P. Diddy, not that P. Diddy, wants to know, whose idea was it to take home commemorative chairs at pay-per-views, and how did it become a thing?
That became a thing. I believe it was Bob Collins, who was the promotions guru at the time. And I'm not sure if the NBA had done it for a championship game one time. And we were looking at it thinking, this is a hell of a souvenir to have. it proves I was ringside at WrestleMania is kind of how it began. Yeah, bullshit. You weren't ringside. Oh yeah, here's the chair, motherfucker. And the only way that you could get that chair was to have been sitting ringside at a WrestleMania or at that event. So that's the kind of concept behind it, and I want to give Bob Collins credit for that.
Fred wants to know, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made in Gorilla?
Whew. Again, those are too many to count. Either going commercial where we weren't supposed to, or giving wrong time cues. There's a lot of ways to fuck up there.
Okay,
I think I've done them all at least 7 times.
Kind of current, but it's not negative, so I think you'll dig it. Chris wants to know, did Bruce have any preconceived notions about anybody on the roster? And then once he got back into creative, his perception was proven wrong. So maybe you had an idea of who someone was or what they were about going in, and then you get to know them and you're like, oh, I was way wrong on that. In a good way.
Yes. You mean in a good way?
Not in a negative. I know you can't give a negative.
Yes.
Put somebody over. Who was it? Who exceeded your expectations?
Randy Savage, definitely. You'd heard all these horrible things about Randy, but he was difficult to work with. He was crazy, and he was completely the opposite, at least to me.
He means currently.
Yeah, currently, definitely. There are guys. I'm not going to say who, but yeah.
You're putting somebody over though. You're not being negative.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that either.
I get it. Jay Boogie, don't take my hoodie, cites or asks, who booked the Stooges versus the Mean Street Posse?
Vince.
That was my big time takeaway is that always felt like Vince's comic relief. He got a kick out of his real life son and his real life son's friends beating up his real life best friends. Like that's Vince all day, is it not?
Yeah, it Vince Russo, both of them. That was a lot of both of their doing at that time.
Adam wants to know, out of all the referees you've worked with, what makes a great referee?
Again, one that is in the background and that does their job without getting in the way. And if you don't notice the referee, then that's a great referee.
CG says, is there any talent from any era or any company that you've worked with that you were surprised became a breakout star?
God, I would look, the jury was out on John Cena for many years.
Right.
And the jury was out on Hunter for many years. So those are two guys that stand out. Bret Hart, I wouldn't have called that back in '89. So yeah, there's quite a few.
ATMC says, what's the story behind Hade Vanson? What was the plan and why didn't it happen? I think it was some of the most compelling vignettes that ultimately went nowhere. I don't even remember this.
Oh boy, I do. And I forget how the fuck we came up with that name. It was some weird conversation. I'm trying to block that one from my memory too. But the idea was for him to come in and work a program with the Undertaker, so that we brought him in right on top. The guy had some talent, but when he came up to actually get in the ring, didn't really impress anybody. And it was dropped pretty quick. He was not the biggest guy in the world. And it's hard when you are judging him against his peers, wherever he may be. And I'm pretty sure he was in OVW. I could be wrong about that. OVW or Georgia. And didn't have a bunch of giants there. And then all of a sudden he's standing there next to the Undertaker looking at him in his belly button. And it's like, okay, this isn't going to work. But yeah, that's one I'm trying to forget.
Let's, Let's switch gears here. This is a throwback question. MRBZ says Bruce once said in passing, Ole Anderson killed the cage match. What happened to make him think that?
Ole Anderson was, to my knowledge, one of the first guys that ever like just had the cage raise and allow heels to get into the cage. It was just weird. And up until that point, the cage had always been used. Nobody in, nobody out. And at that point, the cage became just another prop. And unfortunately, it's hard to turn back, because if, cage can be a violent, brutal, but in the South anyway, the cage match was nobody in, nobody out to a finish. And Ole was the first one in the South, in Atlanta, that had raised the cage and allowed people to run in. And then it was like the cage raised for the heels, but then the baby faces couldn't get into the cage to save them. And it just, and then people started doing shit like that. Dusty started doing shit like that. And everybody started doing shit like that, to where the cage wasn't what it used to be. And then you had to figure out other ways to make the cage a part of the story. And guys like Bruno and guys like the Sheik, who didn't want to do the clean job, the finish to escape the cage became the norm. Sheik couldn't pin the Sheik, but you could get out of the cage before him. So that was the rationale there. And people do things, why they do them, and then it evolves from there.
Colby Reed wants to know, if you had a week off, there's a wish, where would be your go-to vacation spot?
A beach.
You guys had big plans that have been thwarted a few times. You were going to do a big sailing vacation that got canceled because Steph had some stuff going on. And then you had another big beach one. I even recommended this great house in Cabo that Megan and I have been to several times.
100% paid for and hasn't been used yet.
It's for sale, by the way. We should go in and buy the house. Let's talk about that off the air, but, I love it. And you didn't get quite there. So any is exotic beach. That's your speed.
Yeah. Where they speak English.
Yeah, I understand.
And take American money.
You're going to get a little heat for speaking English, but by the way,
no. Wait, here's what I mean by that. No, I'm speaking English. I like to go places where they speak English. I'm not fluent in Spanish. I'm not fluent in French and, or Italian or anything like that. So if I go there, I need an interpreter. But if you go to the Caymans and, places like that where everyone is, and they take American money, the dollar. I don't like exchanging money and having to deal with wondering about, okay, 3 pesos equals this or anything like that. I hate doing it in Canada, and they speak English there.
Which mascot was worse, Gobbledygooker or Wildcat Willie?
Oh, fuck, Wildcat Willie. That's lame.
But it says WCW. You get it?
That's bullshit.
Wildcat Willie. Come on.
Gobbledygooker.
Greg wants to know, if Bruce had to choose between Dave Meltzer or Jerry Jarrett to be the head booker, who would he pick?
I said I wasn't going to say anything bad about Dave today.
So you're picking Jerry Jarrett?
Not in a million years.
So it's Meltzer then.
Not in 2 million years.
You got to pick one.
I'm out of the business. Never watch it again. Andy,
I love you so much. Andy says, we know Bruce's thoughts on Dave Meltzer. Is there any wrestling journalist that Bruce holds in high regard and has had a good working relationship with over the years? Don't beat up the word journalist. Just tell me a wrestling personality that you actually like. Is there one?
I would see. Here's your where you have to define what's a wrestling journalist, because people that you would think that you call wrestling journalists, I call gossip mongers.
Okay, just tell me anybody in the wrestling business you like.
Do creative writing. They don't actually do journalism.
Have you ever liked anybody, Bruce? Just anybody at all? You hate everyone.
There you go.
Come on. Wade Keller, Dave Scherer, Mike Johnson, Jason Powell, Bruce Mitchell, anybody.
Okay, I can't say I guess I met the Bruce Mitchell guy.
Yeah, we had dinner with him.
Wade Keller came and introduced himself to me at StarCast and was very cordial and very nice. But I'm not fond of any of their work by any stretch of the imagination. I've never met whatever guy you said, Dave Scherer, whatever. I don't know who the hell he is.
You don't dislike Mike Johnson. He's always been nice to you.
I don't like his work.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Again, I don't know. I classify that work in a different way than you do.
Francis wants to know, what Christmas presents have you gotten from the boys or given to the boys over the years? Is there a funny one or an interesting one or a memorable one?
God damn. I don't know that I've ever really exchanged any presents with any of the boys.
Did you ever give Vince a memorable gift or he give you a memorable gift?
Employment.
All of a sudden, this is the JR podcast.
No, I tell you, my favorite gift that I gave him was a nice art bottle of ketchup, like a big fucking thing of ketchup. They had in his office like a Heinz bottle of ketchup, but it was like a big, really nice art kind of thing. Like
a Warhol type deal.
Yeah, but it was an actual it was like a ceramic bottle of ketchup.
Oh, so probably Steve Kaufmann then.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know.
All right. Let's
Heinz.
Huh?
Heinz. It was Heinz. Don't fucking ever compare me to Jim Ross like that. God damn it. That's fresh. I don't believe in exchanging gifts with talent. Sassafras. Keep that separate, Conrad. Next. What's your next little question you got there in your book?
I mean, this is deja vu here. BC wants to know, were there any big celebrity involvements possible for WrestleManias that fell through and were never reported by the dirt sheets?
I think yeah, there were. God, I'm trying to think of some. When you ask fucking questions and you can't come up with answers, that's just the drizzling shits for Ask Bruce Anything. We had Tyson different times and he fell through different times. God, what were some of the fucking others that actually fell through? I couldn't tell you. I think we had Chuck Norris for WrestleMania 7 in LA. That fell through. But goddamn, it's funny when shit falls through, you just move on to the next thing a lot of times. So you forget about it and you have to block that shit from your mind, because otherwise you're trying to make everything else fit into that plan. If that makes any sense. It's like Chuck Norris falls through. Okay, I don't have Chuck Norris, but I have Elizabeth Montgomery. And I'm trying to make Elizabeth Montgomery fit into the Chuck Norris plan. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? It's like you get set on shit and you can't.
Bruce, we're going to do one last question. We're going to wrap it up. This one comes to us from Conrad in Huntsville. He wants to know if you've had a chance to catch what Jake Paul has been doing. He recently knocked out Nate Robinson on the undercard of the Mike Tyson pay-per-view. And this past week or so, he has basically went all pro wrestling. He created a series of videos challenging Conor McGregor to a fight. And it is Wrestling 101. Everyone responded to the challenge and made fun of it. So he responded with even more parodies of Conor's jiu-jitsu coach, Conor himself, Dana White, on and on and on. Even Michael Bisping got a little shrapnel, but it was entertaining, and it feels wrestling 101. Me knowing you like I do, I imagine you got a good chuckle out of Jake's creativity.
Love it. I love it because it's absurd, and both, Jake and Logan are the epitome of promotion and the epitome of going out and being controversial and making shit happen. So kudos to them. I think it's tremendous. I love the way that both of them are able to just get people talking no matter what. So hats off. They're great promoters and entrepreneurs, and I don't always understand it, but good for them.
It's been remarkable to see. If you're a wrestling fan and maybe you're not a YouTube guy or you're not a UFC guy or a boxing guy, I could see how this would have been under your radar. And don't get me wrong, there's some foul language and it's definitely some adult content, but Jake Paul knows how to play the heel, and he's playing it up perfectly. I can't wait to see how it develops, but all I could think was, with a big grin, boy, RASSLIN, that's wrestling.
RASSLIN.
And Bruce, I had a lot of fun today, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to do it. And by the way, we're not done. We're still going to be back with you because we've still got a little movie action to watch together, right?
We do?
Yeah. I'm just saying there's so much Bruce this week. It must be Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And we'll see you here real soon on another edition of Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard.
Rock on.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.